Young And Spoilers reveal after months of struggling with horrific memories and the pain of her kidnapping, Sharon Newman finds herself on the brink of collapse. She is dealing with the deep sadness of her job, and the only solution she believes may help is seeking help from a mental health professional. However, in a moment of anxiety, Sharon doesn't realize that she has made a decision that could put her in danger that will not change. The person Sharon trusts to help her heal is actually an imposter, a figure from her dark past who is planning to harm her. Alan Laurent, the man Sharon decides to ask to try, is not who she seems. He is a con artist, a figure involved in a previous scam who has been impersonating Martin Laurent to hide his true intentions. This leaves Sharon unaware that asking Alan to perform therapy for her would be a fatal mistake, as Alan, or fake Martin, is actually trying to manipulate her once again. When Sharon realizes that she needs support, Tracy Abbott, a longtime friend, steps in and offers to be her sounding board. Tracy is not only a friend but also a close confidant who is willing to share the pain and fear that Sharon is facing. Sharon, in her confusion and pain, finally agrees to Tracy's offer, and the two sit together in a cozy cafe, where Sharon begins to open up about the details she has kept hidden. When Tracy asks about what happened during the kidnapping mission, Sharon begins to share dark memories of her days struggling with fear and impending death. "I died, twice," Sharon says, her voice dropping. "We were held captive with Phyllis, tortured mentally. Those people, they didn't just physically hurt us, they overwhelmed our minds." Tracy listened in silence, her eyes saddened by the pain Sharon was carrying. However, she couldn't help but be troubled when Sharon mentioned a detail she couldn't forget. Sharon told of the conversations she and Phyllis had heard in the cell, distorted sounds, full of images, as if someone was playing mind games with them. Sharon believed that the writer behind all these conspiracies had extensive knowledge of psychology and was probably trying to create a network of harm for them from within. "That voice, it didn't sound like anyone I knew," Sharon continued. "Like someone was planning to control our minds, knowing how to treat them, how to control fear and confusion." Tracy listened, unable to connect the dots to a strange detail she had received before, a message from Alan, whom Sharon was seeking treatment for. The message had been about stopping the gassing in the clinic. Tracy sensed something was off, like it wasn't just a coincidence. She felt curious, and her intuition began to make her suspicious of Alan's true intentions. Tracy's sense of confusion grew as she thought back to recent events. "Sharon," Tracy said, her voice less certain than before. "I think we need to be careful. I remember a message I got from Alan about stopping the gassing. It might be a coincidence, but it could also be connected to what we were talking about." Sharon looked at Tracy curiously, but then realized that Tracy was probably thinking what she had just thought. Is Alan, the man she trusted to help her, really a legitimate psychiatrist or just part of a conspiracy by the mastermind behind it all? Is the help she sought out to help her the greatest threat she has ever known? A sense of unease and anxiety grips Sharon as she realizes that what she thought was the right move could be the biggest mistake of her life. Sharon can't understand that the help she seeks could lead her into a trap where revenge has been brewing for her all along. But as these secrets are increasingly revealed, Sharon and Tracy will face an inevitable confrontation, where the con artists are not only playing mind games but are also preparing darker plans than ever. The situation becomes even more serious when Sharon realizes that Alan is the one who organized the kidnapping service and is now exploiting her trust to continue making music. Will Sharon and Tracy be able to respond to the danger in time before it is too late? And how will the truth about Alan Laurent and his dark plot be revealed, when everyone is caught in a spiral of deception and betrayal? This story has only just begun, and it promises to bring viewers a tense process, full of surprises and a constant struggle between life and death. Sharon Newman's life has never been the same since she and Phyllis were kidnapped in a horrific case that left them with unspeakable pain. Memories of their captivity, psychological trauma, and the mind manipulation of their captor make it difficult for Sharon to escape. But when she thinks she has found a solution, things become more complicated and dangerous than ever. In a conversation with Tracy Abbott, Sharon begins to reveal details of the precautions her captor took to prevent her and Phyllis from escaping. Sharon describes the elaborate traps her captor set up, from controlling their living space to using extremely dangerous psychological methods to control their victims' minds. Sharon's conversations make Tracy increasingly worried. Tracy was concerned not only for Sharon's safety but also for the dire consequences that confronting this kidnapper might bring. Not only did the kidnapper have sinister plans, but he also seemed to be conducting a psychological experiment, forcing Sharon and Phyllis to confront each other, settling a long-standing feud. Tracy listened to Sharon talk about these precautions, but even as she worried, Tracy couldn't help but feel a strong sense of unease as Sharon continued to describe the kidnapper's behavior. Not only was this kidnapper sophisticated in his physical control, but he was also skillful in interfering with Sharon and Phyllis's psychology, making it impossible for them to escape his control. Tracy wondered if Sharon was putting herself in more danger by trying to seek psychological treatment from someone she trusted. Alan, whom Sharon believed to be the psychologist who had helped her through hypnosis, was showing signs of suspicion. While Alan helps Sharon recover from the kidnapping, the price of that recovery is not easily recognized. Sharon, still clinging to the hope that Alan can help her continue her recovery, suggests that Alan be the one to solve this case. After all, Sharon not only needs help in overcoming the trauma of the kidnapping, but also wants Alan to unravel the mysteries behind the enemy who is manipulating her. She believes that with his hypnotic skills and extensive knowledge of psychology, Alan can not only heal her emotional wounds but also help them find clues as to what is really going on. Sharon hopes that Phyllis, like herself, can participate in therapy with Alan so that they can decipher the dark thoughts of this madman. "We need to understand what he thinks," Sharon tells Tracy with determination. However, Tracy immediately warns Sharon that Alan is currently in Paris, and therefore, meeting him to solve the case is not an easy task. However, Sharon still believes that when Alan returns, he will be the key to ending this nightmare. Despite her concerns, Sharon still believes that Alan is the only one who can help her and Phyllis escape the spiral of pain and fear. Sharon, not willing to sit still, decides to meet Phyllis, Summer, and Nick Newman at GCAC, where she shares the latest information from her conversation with Tracy. She reveals that Alan may be the help they need, although there are still many doubts and unanswered questions. Sharon believes that Alan can not only help her recover mentally, but is also the only one who can uncover the secret of the kidnapper, the one who is keeping both Phyllis and Sharon living in fear and danger. At GCAC, Sharon updates everyone on what she has heard and seen from Alan. She shares with everyone that Alan, although in Paris, may return and provide vital help in this fight. Alan is the key, Sharon assures. We need to see him when he returns. This is our only chance to end this ordeal. Phyllis, though uncertain about Alan, cannot deny that Sharon is right about the need for help from a mental health professional. Summer and Nick, though confused by this information, decide to support Sharon and continue their journey to find the truth. However, none of them can guess that Alan, whom Sharon has trusted, has a dark secret waiting to be revealed. The kidnapper, who may be Alan under another disguise, has been sneaking around and no one knows his true intentions. Sharon is not only facing mental pain but also being drawn into a dangerous psychological game. As she trusts Alan more and more, dark secrets gradually reveal themselves. Is Alan really a trustworthy psychiatrist, or is he just a puppet in the hands of the kidnapper to achieve his cruel goals? Sharon, with her trust in Alan, may have to pay a heavy price when what she thought was a salvation is actually the beginning of a larger conspiracy than ever. This story is just part of a series of mysteries that Sharon will have to face. Conspiracies and betrayals will continue to drag Sharon and her loved ones into a dangerous game that the enemy can always monitor and control from behind. Will Sharon realize the danger before it is too late? After the terrible kidnapping, Sharon Newman still cannot escape the ghost of obsession. Although she has overcome the dark days, the pain in her mind cannot disappear. Memories of fear, feelings of loss and anxiety still haunt her every night. She has faced death not once, but twice, and her existence has been brutally threatened. Sharon, after the mental and physical shocks, decides to seek help from a psychologist who she thinks can help her recover. However, in this journey of healing, Sharon does not expect that she may have made a terrible mistake. The person she trusted, the person she thought was her savior, is actually part of a dark conspiracy that she has not yet realized. Alan Laurent, who Sharon thought was a trustworthy psychologist, turns out to have a very complicated and dangerous connection to her past. Since Sharon started to seek hypnosis therapy from Alan, she has gradually felt a positive change in her spirit. The painful memories began to fade, and Sharon felt a sense of relief from the very things she had tried to ignore all this time. However, the truth was not always as simple as it seemed. Although Alan had helped Sharon and even got the likes of Jordan and Ian Ward arrested, Sharon had no idea that she was in the hands of someone who was not Alan but an imposter, part of a dark conspiracy she had no idea about. Tracy Abbott, Sharon's close friend and someone who had always worried about her, began to sense that something was wrong. Tracy listened to Sharon talk about the precautions the kidnapper had taken during the time she and Phyllis were held captive. The details Sharon provided, such as the kidnapper watching their every move, calculating their every move, made Tracy feel uneasy. She couldn't help but feel that something fishy was going on and that it was more than just a simple kidnapping. Sharon continues to reveal how the kidnapper seems to know about her feud with Phyllis, and it seems like he is conducting an experiment, forcing Sharon and Phyllis to confront and resolve their differences. These conversations only make Tracy more fearful of the dangers Sharon is facing. Not only is the kidnapper playing mind games with Sharon, but he also seems to have a plan to force her to face things she wants to avoid. Tracy begins to doubt whether Alan is really who Sharon thinks he is. Could what Sharon thinks is help actually be putting her in more danger? Sharon, despite feeling the support of Alan, is unaware that she is being manipulated. However, Sharon still believes that Alan will be able to help her continue to heal and even help solve the case of the kidnapper. With that hope, Sharon did not hesitate to suggest to Tracy that Alan might be the one who could help them find the truth. She believed that Alan could be the key to unraveling everything and finding a connection between the strange events that she and Phyllis had experienced. In Sharon's mind, Phyllis's participation in therapy with Alan would be an important step, as it would give them a chance to better understand the thoughts and motives of the madman who had kidnapped them. Sharon hoped that as the two of them faced their terrifying memories together, they would be able to find important connections that would help to foil the enemy's plot. However, Tracy had other ideas. She warned Sharon about the danger of continuing to trust Alan, who was currently in Paris. Tracy was not only worried that Sharon might be tricked, but also wondered if Alan could really help her or was part of the kidnapper's plot. Sharon doesn't quite agree with Tracy, as she still holds on to the belief that Alan will come back and fix everything when he returns. And then, when Sharon meets Phyllis, Summer, and Nick Newman at GCAC, she updates them on recent forums and conversations with Tracy. Sharon shares her hopes that Alan will help them in their work to solve the dark secrets surrounding the kidnappings and the plots the enemy is carrying out. Alan is the key, Sharon decides. He can help them understand what this psychopath is thinking and why Reassess is playing these mind games. Phyllis, though still feeling uneasy about Alan, can't deny that Sharon has a reason for wanting to see him again. Summer and Nick, though skeptical, can't help but know that Alan might be part of the answers they're looking for. However, they can't help but wonder if Alan is actually playing a role in all of this. Is he really the psychiatrist Sharon believes he is, or just a con artist full of tricks? The story is not only a confrontation between Sharon and the kidnapper but also a psychological war between secrets and betrayal. Sharon, who has faith in Alan, is gradually realizing that she may have been caught in a conspiracy that she could not have carried out before. Will Alan really help her find the truth or lead her into a deadly trap? Sharon will have to face difficult choices to protect her body and the people she loves. Conclusion: this story has just begun. Secrets and deceitful conspiracies are still waiting for Sharon and her loved ones. Can they get out of danger before it is too clean? Or will Sharon continue to fall into the web of con artists and pay the price for her blind imagination of those around her? The answer will soon be revealed in the next episodes, when everything begins to clear up and all the truth is achieved on the big screen.